Hello and welcome to the About to Interview podcast. I'm your host, that guy named John. This is a supplemental version of the About to Review podcast, which drops every Wednesday and covers movies, TV shows, film festivals, and more. You can follow the podcast on all forms of social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at About to Review, and make sure to subscribe on iTunes/Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Blueberry, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. This show focuses solely on the conversations that I have with authors, directors, actors, and creators, and is available on YouTube as well as subscribing to the podcast. Make sure to click the subscribe button below, give a thumbs up, and check out the full show notes with links to the guests at abouttoreview.com.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Yeah! Let's all go to the lobby. Yeah! Let's all go to the lobby. Yeah! Let's all go to the lobby. Yeah!
I have the pleasure of sitting down with Sebastian Lelio, who is the director of the new film Disobedience and is a recent Oscar winner for A Fantastic Woman. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, with this new film, Disobedience, one of the first things that really struck me was the intimacy in the camera work. It never felt like the camera was more than 3 feet away from the subject. So can you talk about that process and why you made that choice to be that intimate with your shots?
Well, I really love working with actors, and I try to create the effect for the spectator. The illusion that they are watching real people and not characters. And in order to do that, I really rely a lot in the actors and their trust and their daring attitude towards the project. And in this case, I was particularly interested in, the intersection between what the characters were and who were interpreting them. So I was interested in Rachel Weisz as a human being interpreting Ronit, or in Rachel McAdams as a person interpreting Esti, or Alessandro Nivola as a real human being interpreting David. So somehow what I'm trying to capture with the camera is something that is in that in-between area. So you're watching at the same time the character and the person. And that, I think that's one of the main sources from where that feeling of great intimacy comes from.
Excellent. Now, you have talked about before that you moved around a lot as a child. You kind of had this nomadic childhood. Whenever you do that, it forces you to adapt very quickly to new situations. How has that adaptability that you were kind of forced to learn as a child helped you with your filmmaking?
Well, I'm not sure, but I have the feeling that probably that forced me to develop an inner world, because it was the only thing that I could carry with me. I was always saying goodbye to friends and being the new one in whichever city I was arriving to. And at the same time, I guess it helped me to develop some social skills in terms of learning how to, be not too noticeable when I wanted to, and then be socially effective if I needed to, which probably are two things that a director really need.
Right? You need to be able to kind of disappear into the background at some parts.
Oh, you need to know when to disappear, believe me. But then you really need to be out there if you want to, move the amount of energy that making a film requires.
Now, speaking of energy, and we talked about the intimacy of that camera work, there are so many moments of this film that were just dripping with intensity and emotion and passion. Now, as a director, when you're seeing that happen in real time, and like you said, you're watching, Rachel become Ronit, you are watching all of this developed, how do you then formulate on the day really how you want to shape that image for the audience?
Well, what I do is, it might sound strange to you because probably you're talking about this feeling of everything being very alive on screen.
Mm-hmm. Organic.
Organic, alive. But I storyboard.
Okay.
all my films.
Mm-hmm.
I do that because it's a way to film the film once, at least in my head. And by doing that and going through that very intense process that you can only do after having the real locations where you will be shooting, you stumble with a lot of problems, logical problems, things that don't make sense.
Right.
And then so it's a really good exercise, and then how you want to film each scene, from which angle, from which perspective, what do you want to see in the backdrop, and how do you want to deconstruct the scene in different shots. So when I arrive to a set, I know all that. I know what I want. So then I can afford to get lost.
Nice.
And I can afford to allow the actors to explore and to get lost and to be foolish and to to go for whatever is written in the script, but maybe to deviate a little bit and then see what happens and then come back. And I'm not really sure with what I will end up really building the scene, but I'm trying to capture as much material as I can, so I can later on find the final shape of the scene in the editing room. But don't get me wrong. I mean, this requires a great amount of writing.
Absolutely.
So in order to you can be lost within a very precise limits.
Mm-hmm.
But then out of that friction, sometimes really beautiful sparkles merge.
Nice. Now, with Matthew Herbert, the amazing score, and you had worked together, of course, with a fantastic woman as well. Was he the first person that you thought of when you were doing this film? Because the music in this plays such a critical role, both with the choral work, that we hear in the synagogue, and also just the underlying score itself. So talk about the process between you and Matthew Herbert that you have created.
Well, I've been a fan of Matthew's work since I was a teenager in Chile, and I was really following his electronic musician side, and a big fan. And then for A Fantastic Woman, we had such a great mutual understanding, and I think what he did for that film was so important for the film and beautiful that I didn't even think it twice. I mean, we wanted more, and luckily I feel blessed because he also wanted to continue the collaboration, and he really understood that one aspect of the film that has to do with the fact that this is taking place in a very unknown world, kind of like a if you want, in a different planet,
like a little microcosm.
Exactly, a microcosm, or a place that where there is a very specific culture, which is very secretive, where they worship a god, where they dress in a certain way, they have a set of moral code and behavior, and so it's like visiting a different planet. So Matthew and me, we were saying this has like a sci-fi element to it. There is like a, so let's explore in that direction. Let's not go for the usual, whatever that is, the usual orthodox score, which usually depends a lot on the music that is coming from that particular culture.
Right.
But let's try to create a score that creates a certain tension, because the sonic universe of it doesn't really belong to that place.
Right.
And I think that's why the film has this strangeness.
And it reminded me of like a discordant melody, that kind of ran through the movie.
Yeah. There is that element, and at times it really embraces a romantic aspect.
Absolutely.
Almost like in an old-fashioned way, which is something that I really enjoy.
Yeah. So one of the other core concepts of this film, one of the core themes, is sacrifice. Is, realizing what you have and what you're passionate about, and sometimes what you have to give up. So with sacrifice, being that is such a personal thing, what are things that you felt like you needed to sacrifice in order to get this film made?
Personally? Wow. Well, making a film it requires a lot of sacrifices.
Right.
I think one's personal life suffers a lot, because filmmaking is such a voracious process. It demands everything from you, and I think people that are around you suffer that, and that's probably the hardest part of it. But then I'm very lucky, because I'm surrounded by people that understand that, and that can wait for me when I until I come back from Jupiter.
Right.
But yeah, it requires. To do it right, you need to fully commit, and but that's the beauty of it as well. I think in that sense, that's why I like this kind of characters, because they are willing to pay the price for becoming who they want to become. Who they think they are, or who they would like to be.
Yeah. And that journey is very evident for all of the characters. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me and talk with me about the amazing film that you directed, Disobedience. So once again, Sebastian Lelio.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.